This here is the new 2024 Isuzu D-Max facelift. The pickup truck market in Malaysia is getting ultra competitive. At the top of the sales pile is undoubtedly the Toyota Hilux, but right behind that, the Isuzu D-Max, the Mitsubishi Triton and the Ford Ranger are all very close to each other. So what exactly is new with the D-Max facelift, and should you get one over its rivals? Let's find out together. As usual, let's start with prices. First, the Isuzu D-Max facelift has 5 different model lineups here in Malaysia, but between engine and transmission options, there are no less than 8 variants for you to choose from. That is the most among all pickup trucks here in Malaysia, so that makes it the easiest for you to choose the exact variant that would fit your requirements and budget. Prices start from just under 100,000 ringgit for the base single cab 1.9 litre manual option, but for this top of the range 3 litre automatic X-Terrain version with all the bells and whistles, prices go all the way up to 158,000 ringgit. If that sounds like a lot of money for a pickup truck, it definitely is, but that is just how the pickup truck market is right now here in Malaysia. The top spec Mitsubishi Triton is about the same price, the top Hilux is actually 170,000 now, and the top of the range Ford Ranger, not even the high performance Raptor, is already over 180,000 ringgit here in Malaysia. You can blame the inflated prices on inflation, weak ringgit right now, and even all the pickup truck makers making the models more and more upmarket and premium. Even Isuzu itself, which has traditionally positioned itself in the more affordable side of the market, has steadily increased its prices over the last couple of years. This third generation D-Max was initially launched in Malaysia in 2021, but every year since then, there has been a small upgrade with small price hikes as well. So back in 2021, this was launched at 142,000 ringgit. In 2022, it became 147,000. In 2023, it became 151, and now we are left with 158,000 for the top spec X-Terrain. So while the incremental price hikes have been rather small year on year, the fact is the D-Max has gone up by a full 16,000 ringgit in just 3 years. But at least this latest round of price increase does come with a rather significant visual update. The facelift brings about a whole new light cluster design, which is now slimmer and sharper than before. The daytime running lights now run over the single LED projectors instead of under them, and the DRLs also double up as turn signal indicators. This looks far better than the separated bumper mounted indicator bulbs from before. Speaking of the bumpers, you now have these aero slits around the front corners, similar to what you find in much more premium cars like the BMWs. The front grille has also been given a proper makeover. It is now much bigger, wider and far more prominent than before, and this top spec X-Terrain especially has been given a bit of a mask around the front end. This gives it a more eye-catching look with more road presence as well, but if you ask me, I think I miss the rather clean and simple looks of the pre-facelift. On the other hand, I much prefer these new 18-inch wheel design compared to the closed dish look from the original car. As far as facelifts go, this is one of the bigger ones for pickup trucks because it actually involves new sheet metal. The bonnet up here is actually new for this version. For a pickup truck to go through such significant changes so quickly is actually quite surprising, because this third generation D-Max only came out 3 years ago, back in 2021. That is a big contrast compared to, say, the Mitsubishi Triton, which has stayed exactly the same since 2018, and that itself is just a facelift of a car that came out in 2015. There's new sheet metal in the back as well, with the tailgate now having a clear crease up top instead of just the sides. The taillights are also new for the facelift, with now having 3 pods instead of just 2 like in the old version. Overall though, the D-Max still remains one of the sleekest, most handsome pickup trucks in the market, especially with the car-like integrated rear bumper back here. One thing that is sorely lacks is a sports bar up top. There is one available as an option, but you gotta pay extra for it, and even then it doesn't look anywhere near as nice as the proper integrated design that is available in other markets such as Australia. As for the tailgate, the handle on this particular car is a bit loose and hard to operate. But once unlatched, you can just release the tailgate and it lowers itself down slowly instead of just crashing down. This is thanks to the two dampers as part of the tailgate assist system, and it's very easy and light to close it back up as well. Unfortunately though, the clever sliding tray system that was fitted to the original launch version is now no longer available. As for functionality, you do get these 4 metal tied down hooks at the top, but you don't get any external power points like in the Ford Ranger. Inside is where the Isuzu D-Max stands out the most compared to its competition. This dashboard over here is by far and away the most SUV design in its class, and while the latest Ford Ranger does come close in terms of premium look and feel, in terms of overall design, this is my favorite pickup yet. Isuzu Malaysia has been rather flip-flopping when it comes to color combinations in this 3rd generation D-Max. When it was first launched in 2021, it had a full two-tone look with brown at the top of the dashboard and all the seats. But just last year in 2023, it went full black instead. Now for the facelift, the seats have stayed black, but now with a bit more of a pattern design which do look good. The top of the dashboard though is now back in brown, and you have the lighter shade on the steering wheel itself. To me, this is the nicest color combination we've seen in a pickup truck yet. New for the facelift is a semi-digital instrument cluster in front of the driver. You now have 2 themes to choose from, although the ref counter is still a physical analog dial. There is also a new multi-color ambient lighting system for this interior, which does look really good at night. The center screen is also new, now slightly bigger than before at 10-inch diagonal. This does support wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it works quite well. Weirdly enough, the screen itself has this anti-reflective finish, so from the driver's point of view, all the colors are very muted. It looks a bit washed out. I'm not a fan of that at all. What I do like are the very simple full physical controls for the dual zone climate control system. Beyond that, the build quality is pretty good as well. The top layer is all finished in high quality soft touch leather, and even as you move down the cabin, the textures of the plastic feels a touch better than most of its rivals, especially the Toyota Hilux and the Mitsubishi Triton. It's only down here where it feels a little bit cheap, where the center console can be pushed about, moved about a little bit, and the finish on the handbrake as well as certain parts of the steering wheel feels very cheap. But having said that, the front seats are definitely the best in the pickup truck market right now. They are very soft, very comfortable, very supportive as well, and you've even got proper shoulder support for the driver. It's fantastic. Back here, the D-Max remains one of the more spacious pickup trucks available in Malaysia, with decent legroom and okay headroom back here. For your reference, I am 167 centimeters tall, but even if you're much taller, you should be able to fit in the back here with a certain level of comfort as well. Speaking of that though, the backrest is still a touch too upright, especially compared to the likes of the Mitsubishi Triton. At the very least, you do get a full set of rear aircon vents back here, and for the facelift, all the USB charging ports have been switched from USB-A to USB-C. One neat trick is that you can lift up the base of the rear seats to carry bigger, bulkier items in the cabin, and you even get a set of secret cubby holes for you to fit things out of sight. Driving the facelifted Isuzu D-Max feels exactly the same as the old version, but let's talk about it anyway. You still have 2 engine options, a 1.9-litre 4-cylinder turbo engine that makes 150 PS and 350 Newton meters of torque. With that, you get a very affordable road tax, and decent enough power should be more than good enough for most people. But more old school, no replacement for displacement. Folks would much prefer the larger 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine that we have here on the X-Terrain. Here it makes 190 PS and 450 Newton meters of torque, a healthy increase over the 1.9. But despite its big size, the biggest in the class, in fact, the outputs are only slightly higher than the Triton's 2.4-litre engine. In fact, this 3-litre engine makes far less power and torque compared to the 2.8-litre in the Toyota Hilux and even the 2-litre bi-turbo engine in the Ford Ranger. But you know what? To long-time Isuzu owners, that's not a bad thing at all, because Isuzu is well known for under-tuning its engines for ultimate longevity and reliability. The engine is now so under stress that it will just go on and on forever, and even its fuel consumption will be very good as well. On that, having driven this pickup truck in Kuala Lumpur across a lot of traffic jams or whatnot, I've still averaged around 11 to 12 kilometers per litre, about 8 to 9 litres per 100 kilometers, which is still very impressive for a pickup truck this size. With the significantly increased diesel pump prices here in Malaysia, that will come in handy. Having said all that though, this big 3-litre engine feels very much like an old school diesel truck engine. From the very moment you start the engine up, it comes to life with a big and vocal, rough diesel clatter, much more so than most other more modern and refined pickup truck engines of recent years. This feels like a much older, more old school diesel engine. Even when you drive it, you're always well aware of the diesel clatter up front, and if you ever rev it up like so, it takes a while to rev up, but you definitely hear it. Yeah, it's easily one of the loudest diesel engines in the market today. But if your current benchmark is an old generation Isuzu D-Max, this is already a big improvement over the old model, so you don't have to worry about that at all. But if you already own a newish modern pickup trucks from other brands, jumping into this Isuzu might feel, like you're going back in time a little bit. The lack of refinement aside, this engine is actually a pretty good one. There's heaps of power available over here. It may be a little bit slow to respond to begin with, but once the power comes in, it comes in with a boot full of torque. It works really well with a 6-speed automatic gearbox over here. To me, this is a far better engine and gearbox combination compared to the Ford Ranger with a 10-speed automatic. In that truck, you always feel like the transmission is shuffling between a couple of gears, up, down, up, down. It doesn't quite feel as smooth as this one does. There's practically no changes to both the engine and transmission for this latest facelift version, except for the inclusion of a DPF, or a diesel particulate filter, in the exhaust system. This is there to make the engine comply to the Euro 4 emission standards, and it has nothing to do at all in terms of power, performance, and so on. The car, even driven back to back, feels exactly the same. The only difference being the exhaust fumes now smell a little bit less foul compared to before. If anything, it smells a bit sweeter now, which is a bit weird. The suspension, the ride and handling package are exactly the same as before as well. So as it is just like before, at lower speeds, this D-Max feels a little bit jiggly and bouncy across uneven roads and big bumps, but as the speeds rise above say 60-70 kilometers per hour, it completely levels out. At highway speeds, at 100-110 kilometers per hour, it completely transforms. It now becomes one of the most comfortable pickup trucks in the market today. To drive though, it's a whole different story again, because this truck is very softly sprung. It doesn't take too kindly to taking corners at slightly higher speeds. It feels more truck-like, less car-like than say the more dynamic Mitsubishi Triton and especially the Ford Ranger. But then again, if you drive the truck as a truck should be driven, this should be more than good enough. It still needs to be mentioned though that we are getting a slightly downgraded version of the Isuzu D-Max here in the ASEAN markets. This includes both Malaysia, Thailand and so on. While in markets like Europe and Australia, the D-Max comes with a newer, more advanced electric power steering, we are still getting the older hydraulic power steering system. This is done for, again, ultimate longevity, cheaper parts to maintain and so on. But as it is, the steering feel does feel a little bit vague, a bit too slow, and especially at highway speeds, you will find yourself correcting the steering wheel with rather large motions, which can feel a little bit tiring after some time. The use of this older generation hydraulic power steering is also the reason why our D-Max does not come with the full suite of ADAS active safety systems. So while in Australia it will come with an active lane keep system with a full level 2 semi-autonomous driving feature and all that, here in Malaysia we are only getting adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, which is new for the facelift by the way, but not a level 2 semi-autonomous driving system. For that you will need the electric power steering, which we don't get. But then again, I don't foresee a lot of pickup truck owners here in Malaysia will actually use a semi-autonomous driving feature if this car even had it to begin with, so I don't think that's too big of a loss. But as it is, the steering right now feeling a little bit too heavy, a bit vague as well. It does again add on to the rather old school feel of the whole driving experience. Back to safety though, it is overall quite good. The Isuzu D-Max does have a full 5-star crash safety rating across ASEAN NCAP, Australia NCAP and even Euro NCAP. But again, like I've said, in Australia and in Europe it does have a few extra features that we don't get. What we do get, at least on the X-Terrain version, is a full complement of 7 airbags inside, including one for the driver's knees. Once you go down the range, you will start losing airbags here and there. One step below the X-Terrain, it goes down to 6 airbags without the driver's knee airbag, and once you get to the bottom models, you only get 2 airbags. But even then, there are improvements spec by spec compared to the pre-facelift model, which is a nice thing to know. One last thing is the refinement levels on this car. I've already touched upon how loud the engine can be when pushed, but when you're cruising along at highway speeds, say 100 kilometers per hour, you actually barely hear the engine. Actually, you barely hear anything at all because there's very muted tire noise coming in, and even wind noise, there's hardly anything going in until you reach say 120, 130 kilometers per hour. Again, if you want to use your pickup truck on long distance journeys, going up and down KL, Penang, KL, Johor and so on, this is one of the better options, most comfortable pickup trucks out there. And in fact, I find that this particular truck is super comfortable just cruising along at 140 kilometers per hour on the highway, whereas in most other trucks, you won't feel as comfortable, as relaxed going that fast. So that's my full review of the 2024 Isuzu D-Max facelift. As far as updates go, this is a pretty minor one because apart from the new looks, there's minimal or no changes whatsoever to the engine, transmission, suspension and so on. Overall though, while its engine is far from being the most refined or most powerful in the class, and both the Triton and the Ranger feeling more dynamic than this one, it is easily one of the most comfortable pickup trucks to be in out on highways, especially for long distance journeys. Plus, its SUV-like interior is a complete standout in the market right now. As expensive as it may look right now, it is still far cheaper than both the Toyota Hilux and the Ford Ranger. So even in terms of value, this is pretty strong too. So what do you think of the Isuzu D-Max? Would you get this over its closest rivals? Do let me know in the comment section below. For now, thank you for watching and stay safe everyone.